Okay, we're good.
Okay, just like to welcome everyone here tonight, especially like to welcome Michael Poff and the Carter family as well. They're going to be here with us tonight, and we appreciate that. I'd also like to introduce Jamie Blakesley. He's the new city attorney for our city, and we're grateful to have him here as well. So thank you for coming. All council members are in attendance. This is the South Weaver City Council meeting of July 28th, 2020. It is 6:04 p.m. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance by me and the prayer by Councilwoman Alberts. Please stand and repeat.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Father in heaven, we are so very grateful to be able to gather this evening to talk about our wonderful and beautiful state. We are grateful, Father, to be able to honor those that have given back so much time and dedication to our city and have left a legacy to be honored and to be remembered. We are grateful, Father, for all of our armed service men and women who are protecting our freedoms and sacrificing so much for us, as well as all of our emergency personnel, especially for South Weaver, and pray that thou will watch over their families and that they might be able to have thy safety to be with them. We pray for thy spirit to be here with us this night as we, the representatives of the city, are able to discuss matters that are pertaining to us and to our future, that we will be able to have thy wisdom to be with us and to guide us into the best decisions. We are grateful, Father, for all thy many blessings and pray for all those that are feeling the effects of this pandemic, that they will be able to find comfort and peace and healing. We love thee, Father, very much. We say these things in thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilwoman Alberts. Okay, first of all, I wanted to give a quick coronavirus update from the county. There's 9% decrease in cases in the last week in Davis County. And so hopefully that's a flattening of the curve. We're hoping that that is working here. So good news anyway. Ages 15 to 24 have a huge jump in rate. They're the fastest growing age group cases in Davis County. There's a decrease in hospitalization cases, which is good from the week before. There are 11 total deaths in the county. There were the last 3 from last week were long-term care facility patients. South Weaver City has 22 positive cases overall, only 1 active case right now, and we are actually the lowest rate of cases per 100,000 population in Davis County. So we're the lowest city in the county for cases, which is really cool. ICU utilization is at 69%, which is very stable right now. So we're grateful for that. And the proxy transmission rate for the state is below 1%, which is really good. We're actually, or yesterday at least, we were 4th lowest in the nation for transmission. So that's good news. Just keep doing what you're doing, whatever that is. Okay, we now will move to public comment. Please come to the pulpit and give your name and address. Keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Please address the entire council and know that we won't respond at this time. We're now open for public comment. We didn't have any electronic, did we? Okay. All right, hearing none, then we will move to our next item, which is approval of the consent agenda, which consists of the June check register and the May budget to actual. Are there comments or questions on the minutes?
I just have one, excuse me, one comment question on the checks. I noticed we have both Robinson Waste and Wasatch Integrated Waste coming to collect garbage cans. Is that because the city's too big? Why do we have 2 different garbage collections?
So the Robinson Waste fee is for them to come and collect the garbage cans. And then when they drop them off at Wasatch Integrated, there is a fee that we pay Wasatch Integrated for the dumping of
Okay, so
that.
it's just one that's servicing the city, but we're getting
Yeah.
two bills.
Yeah,
because
there's
of-
two bills, but, you know, two different entities that are all involved in the one service.
All right, thank you.
All right, any further questions? And do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, Councilman Halverson, do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
Okay. I'm going to give that to Councilwoman Alberts. So any further questions? Then we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilman Windsor.
Aye.
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 And the motion carries. Thank you. All right, now to the good stuff. I think, should I come up front now? I guess I will. Okay. All right. This is our longest cord, so we're going to go with that. So, Michael, could you come up here and stand somewhere around here, 6 feet away from everyone? Not that far away, maybe like right here. Michael Poff, we thank you for coming. And, you know, when we officially wanted to recognize Michael, we realized, and after talking to a lot of people, and we knew it as well, that Amy was also very involved in the Youth City Council organization with Michael, and we appreciate so much both of them. Michael and Amy Poff have served the South Weber community for many years as advisors for the Youth City Council. Do you know how many years it's been? About 20 years. That's amazing. That's really amazing. They have dedicated many hours over the years to helping the YCC as they organized the annual Easter egg hunt, ran the youth stomp after fireworks, and served in other ways during country fair days, assisted with breakfast with Santa, made and distributed Valentine's Day cards, placed flags for Memorial Day, promoted and judged a house decorating contest for Christmas, assisted with Meet the Candidates, and attended various statewide events for training and leadership experience. They've given much of their time and energy to this community, and the City Council would like to honor and recognize them for their dedication to South Weber City. Thank you, Michael and Amy. We appreciate all you've done. We have here a plaque and a card for them. Thank you so much. Let's give them another round of applause. Okay. Sorry, I'm holding this too close to my face, aren't I? I can hear some sort of, I'll try to be more careful about that. You can hear me when I hold it here, right? Okay. It's catastrophe. It is. Sorry, Quinn. I'll wipe it off before I give it back to you. All right. All right. Now we would like to recognize another important person in our community, and that is Lisa Carter and her family. And her family is with us here tonight. Just a year ago, a lifelong resident of South Weber City, Lisa Carter passed away at the much too young age of 56. Her family called her Lady. Her grandchildren called her Grandma Lady, and she was just that, a very fine lady. She actually competed in the very first South Weber Kids Rodeo back in 1976. It was called the Small Fry Rodeo. At the conclusion, she was named one of the Posse Royalty, and she was only getting started. She went on to join the Utah High School Rodeo Association. In 1986 and 87, she became the Utah Barrel Racing Association's Women's Champion, and in 1988, she joined the Women's Professional Rodeo Association, was named Rookie of the Year, and became Reserve Champion of the Year. On November 16, 1989, at the Circuit Rodeo Finals in Ogden, Lisa won the average for the entire rodeo and was crowned the 1989 Wilderness Circuit Champion Barrel Racer. Almost all the residents of South Weber City were there to cheer her on, and these are Lisa's tearful words at the event. South Weaver is the greatest place in all the world. When I'm traveling all over with the rodeo and it comes my time to compete, and the announcer says, "And from South Weaver, Lisa Carter," I ride with pride. Lisa grew up riding horses all over South Weaver, from the first posse grounds up 1900 East, along every canal road, and finally to finish up at the posse grounds. Lisa has been a volunteer and chaired the Little Buckaroo Rodeo event for over 30 years. She passed her love of horses on to her children, and her daughters have all been whoopee girls at the 24th Ogden City Rodeo. We'd like to thank Lisa Carter's family, her 5 children, and her husband Mark for the great service they have provided the city of South Weaver over many years. Lisa, on behalf of your South Weaver family, we want to say, we love you, we miss you. Thank you so much for the many years of selfless service to your community. And as a token of our appreciation, we will now unveil a new addition to our Posse Grounds Park. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming tonight. We wanted to do this at the rodeo, the Little Buckaroo Rodeo this year, and then that kind of, then COVID kind of hit. So, but we wanted to make sure that you know how much we appreciate the service of Lisa and your family. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Just know that you all can leave anytime you need to. You don't have to stay through the meeting. We just got a few things left, and if you need to go, please feel free. Thank you, Michael. All right.
Thank you, guys.
You have a good night. Thanks so much for coming. All right. We will now move to item number 8, which is the code update process. City Council has identified a desire to review and update city code, especially related to land use and zoning. Staff has identified various approaches the City Council could take in updating the city code and will now present some options for the council's consideration. Dave?
That was all I was gonna say before handing it over to Jamie. So, no, that's
I
fantastic.
stole your thunder, sorry.
No, Jamie and I have talked, and the rest of staff has talked about some options, as was spoken. And so I'll turn the time over to Jamie to talk through what these various options are, and the council ultimately gets to direct how we proceed in updating city code. I know there's been lots of conversation already about where to start, that land use has been the kind of the #1 issue, which in our city code is Title 10. And so there's a little bit of, not an assumption necessarily, but kind of a targeted approach to start at Title 10, since that is all of our land use section. And then from there, we can work on other codes as needed. But how we approach Title 10, I'll let Jamie take it away.
Thanks, David. And hello to everybody. And just by way of introduction, I'm Jamie Blakesley. I'm very pleased to be the new city attorney. I appreciate you all and your confidence and trust in me and my law firm to help the city move forward. One of the things we talked about in the interview with a few members of council and with the mayor was my approach to giving legal advice and to helping a council and a mayor and a city's leadership lead. Is I view my objective is to tell you if there is a parameter on this side of the law and a parameter on this side of the law, and then help you understand the bandwidth within which you can make decisions and the risks and the pitfalls and the things that may come with those choices as you make them, so that you can lead and you can choose and you can guide the city in the way that you feel is best. One of the more interesting things in Utah is land use law. And in part is because Utah state law is written in a way that once a city defines its rules, the interpretation of those rules bends a little bit toward the landowner. But in defining those rules, the city has a great deal of flexibility. And as long as it's not something that's prohibited in state law, you have the ability to define what you want your zoning ordinance to look like and to be. And so as David and I talked a little bit about this last week and then a little bit more today, we wanted to propose a few ways maybe of moving forward procedurally to amend the zoning regulations for the city. And I'll say that from my perspective, being the new attorney, I view a lot of my role in this as guiding and leading. Thank you. The perils of being 6'5", right? I appreciate that. I view a lot of my role as listening and understanding the direction you would like the city to move as it relates to land use and zoning, and then helping you update and craft an ordinance that will, in the best way possible, help you achieve those objectives long term. We'll talk a little bit about this particular project, but I want to fill in one of my philosophies in terms of updating code and updating rules as a city. We will try our best to make the code perfect, and inevitably we will fail. We'll get as close as we possibly can, but there will be things that we maybe don't foresee or that we don't get quite right. And I hope that you will adopt as part of this process a long-term view of every year or at regular intervals having to take a new look at the ordinance and making those kind of stopgap adjustments and pivots that you may need to make as things come up and as you address them. And I hope as you do that, that can be a little bit of a safety valve, that as you come up across issues in applying the ordinance and in seeing how it works, if you see that it's not quite working, that we can hold a list of items that need to be adjusted and made better. And then on either an annual interval or some other interval, visit those adjustments and make those adjustments so that you feel like you can own the ordinance and its application moving forward. As David and I met this morning, we thought there were 3 ways maybe that the city can approach this. And David, please interrupt me and add your thoughts to this as we talk about it. And it would depend on the level of involvement that you all would like to have, the level of involvement you feel is appropriate for your planning commission, and how much staff involvement you would like. One would be to have staff hold the pen and make its best effort at crafting the updates and the changes to the zoning regulations, and then presenting them through the planning commission process as would be required by law, and then bringing them to the city council for final adoption as option 1. Option 2 would be that we would work with the planning commission to craft the amendments and then bring them forward to the town council. And option 3, which would be our preference, would be to create a working group with representative members from staff, the planning commission, and the city council to help identify the things that need to be changed in the zoning regulations, work hand in hand to help craft proposed changes to the regulations, and then have that group then bring it forward through the process that would be required by law, which would be planning commission recommendation and then city council adoption at the end of that process. And at that point, or I guess at this point, I'm all ears as to what you would like to have happen. And I'm all ears also if there are front of mind things that you think I ought to be aware of as we embark on this process to make sure that we get it as right as we possibly can.
Are there any opinions?
And I think this is a discussion that Planning Commission has already started. I mean, as those of you who have listened to Planning Commission, I mean, it's been the last 6 months that they've been talking about trying to come up with changes to this already. And so I think we either need to discuss it with them to either, I like option 3 because I think otherwise we're gonna sit here and talk in circles. And the planning commission is gonna do the same thing. And we're gonna come up with 2 different ideas. Because I think right now members of the planning commission are there's a pretty big divide on how to attack the code. Do you attack it from a looks and the feel perspective, or do you attack it from a black and white type perspective? So I think it needs to be a group. So I would go with option 3. I mean, but I do think planning commission needs to be aware that this is coming from a different level. And we've talked about it, but they talked about it even last time they met. And are trying to, each member of the planning commission right now is supposed to be coming up with a section of the code to start modifying. Well, they may need to know that that's not what they need to be doing right now, doing something different. So whoever needs to take that back to Rob, or if I do, I'm happy to. So.
Okay.
I'll leave that to you as the liaison.
I'll nominate Haley. Or second.
Blair is
That's bullying. I'll do that.
or I think Blair should. But I think I agree with Blair. I just had a couple of questions about the process. How many amendments do you think we can do? How often? Because I feel like we have a lot to update, and we almost have development proposals coming in faster than we can get to our code. How do you address that challenge?
Well, by law, you could make as many amendments as you'd like, but there is a process certainly of when an application comes in and once it's complete, then it would be vested, for lack of a better word, in the code that exists at that moment in time. And that's when I think for city councils and for communities, if the code doesn't quite do what you hope it does, it creates a rut, right? Because they're vested with what the code is at that point in time. And if you didn't anticipate a situation, then it's really hard to modify the development to get to that point. You can amend the code as often or as many times as you would like. It would just be a question of procedurally doing the right things before you adopt it. I think from a practical standpoint, more than once a year would probably be overkill, unless you identified some issue that was so glaring and you knew that there was a development so imminent that you wanted to get that change in place before that occurred. And then there are considerations for existing property owners that may have purchased property or held property with the expectation of the code being a certain way that you'll have to take into account. But other than those things and things that are prohibited in state law, you could make as many changes or adjustments as you need to.
So I guess what I'm asking is, if I'm understanding right, we bring Title 10 up to where we want, and then we review it annually.
Right.
How long do you think it will take to bring Title 10 up to where we want it? Like, could we finish that by the end of the year? Would that probably take a little bit longer? Do you have like a guesstimate on how many amendments we can do at a monthly meeting? Do you see what I'm trying to ask you? Does that make sense?
I do. And that may be something for the working group to decide. I don't want to pun on your question, but I think the working group needs to decide how much energy they can bring to the project, and then we'll have a sense of when we could do it. A year absolutely is doable in my mind. And the question will be whether you want to, I printed the regulations and you can see what we're trying to attack. You could take it piece by piece and bring it forward piece by piece, or you could make all of the amendments wholesale, make sure they work together and are integrated, and then bring it forward as a package and do the entire title that way. I probably would recommend that process. And where the Planning Commission, I know, has been engaged in doing a master plan or the general plan for the city, we can take in mind what's in the general plan and make sure that the zoning regulations respond to that and set the city up as best we can to do that. But I think it would be the working group, once we form it, then I think we should define how committed we all are and how much time we think we can give to it, and then be as aggressive as we can in that timeline to get it done.
And then I just,
Can I add a thought to your question?
yeah.
Even saying Title 10 has a lot of pieces to it, right? You've got all the residential zones, you've got all the commercial zones, then you've got conditional use permit and off-street parking and, you know, a number of different elements. We may want to even take bite-sized pieces there. I agree with the idea of you need to look at it holistically to be able to make sure it all fits together well. But I don't think it would be out of the question if the council wanted to say, let's take the commercial first, or let's take the conditional use first, or something like that. And so it is kind of a hybrid of bring it all together versus not just each chapter necessarily, but maybe a group of chapters. Of let's look at all the commercial zones together, make sure those, you know, fit well. Let's look at all the residential zones together, make sure those fit well, because they're somewhat self-contained. And there is a way to look at it like that as well.
Can we address the hot points though first?
Yeah.
I don't
mean,
see why
I
we.
think
you know,
that would
you
be
talked
chapter
about-
5.
You talked about a list of things. I know everyone here has a list of things that we've faced over the last couple of years that need to be changed, or we just flat don't have. Like a sound ordinance. I mean, we're facing that now and we're dealing with it and we don't have them. So I would recommend whatever this committee is, that all of us and the planning commission give a list of those hot buttons and those get addressed first, so that we don't sit and wait for the 6 months or the year overall thing. I mean, it would be pretty easy to just address the hot points too.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion.
Super.
I just, a recommendation that was actually a resident who follows a lot of different planning commission meetings throughout the state. And maybe you've seen this in the other cities that you represent, but as they go throughout the year, there's either a Google Doc or their staff or whoever is designated that whenever somebody says we need to discuss that, it gets added to a list. And so every year that list is reviewed and they know exactly what they're supposed to review. Is that something that we could implement?
Absolutely, and I favor that approach.
Okay.
In fact, the clients, I think, the other cities and public entities my firm represents that do this kind of thing annually, and they keep a list and then have a practice of once a year at a set time adopting those changes. It's a really healthy practice. It seems to work very well.
Great. That's great. That's all I had. Angie?
Oh, well, thank you.
Ladies first.
Well, when you were first telling us about our options for the process, I was hoping you would say we should have a committee. So I would definitely support having a committee with members from the planning commission. And I would love to see members that have two different opinions and see how that turns out.
Agreed.
So I would say planning commission, staff, city council, totally agree with you on option 3.
Thank you, Angie. Quinn, did you have anything?
I just say I concur. I agree with the, you know, more broad approach to get, so we don't have to go through iteration, back and forth.
Yeah. Wayne, did you have any comments?
Yeah, I concur that option 3 is the best approach. We get a working group. We nominate, or we find volunteers on the city council who are interested in applying. But we can take it one step further. Once the working group is put together, you can set a priority list like you're talking, Blair. If it's a new ordinance that's hot, we need to address right now, or if it's an existing ordinance like commercial, because we have a lot of that coming that we want to address, what is a priority? Again, you have to be committed and you have to set to a schedule. It could be meet 1 week, follow up the next week with comments on one section, introduce the second section, and keep doing it on a weekly basis. Again, it's an energy related thing. How important is this? And are we dedicated? We can start out with a lot of energy, but as you get into something like this, you can, your speed and your tempo tends to decrease with other interests and other activities coming on. So I think it's something we need to hit hard, and we need to be consistent, or it's just going to take a lot of time. And I think time is of the essence with regards to how we respond. So we need to have people who are committed, who have an interest, and have some background knowledge about code, specs, requirements, and things of that nature that can be written in a qualitative and quantitative method. So yeah, I think we're all on the same boat, option 3.
I'm in agreement as well. I think that's the best way to go. The most efficient as well. So to nominate a couple of people from council. Is that something that we need to put on the agenda separately, or is this something we can do now?
You can make that decision now.
Okay, and if it's, I think I would probably talk to Rob about this, just because it might be a sensitive issue, and I'll bring it up with him and make sure that the planning commission understands our desires. And so is there interest? I know there is. So if you are interested in doing this, please let us know now.
So, Mayor, can I just back up one? So Jamie, from the other cities you've seen this in, is there a certain number that is too many, too few? You know,
As far as the committee,
No, there are considerations about how the committee functions, and so I would probably not recommend more than 2 individuals from both the council and your planning commission is 5, correct? Do I have the number right? So I would probably keep it at 2 representatives from each of those organizations, and then of course staff involvement I think would just be based on bandwidth, but I don't think you'd have the same concerns and limits that would relate to staff as would relate to a public body doing this kind of work.
thank you.
And then I should clarify that once the proposals are developed and things are written, then the decision should be made in broad daylight and made with the appropriate public hearings and public process.
right? Okay. Any members of this council interested in being a part of that committee?
I very much am.
Okay.
There's your 2 volunteers.
Okay.
I don't know that we're differently minded though, if that's important. I don't know if we're differently minded on this council necessarily either, but just
You
to
know,
throw
I
it out
think-
there.
Haley, we'll get a chance to tell you now.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think the council has a lot of the same feelings on different issues. And so,
But I don't want to take the opportunity away from Angie, so if Angie's dying to be on the letter.
I really appreciate that, and I will defer to you.
then is the council agreed that we will have Councilwoman Alberts and Councilman Windsor?
Yep, I appreciate that distinction there, Mayor.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all right. All right. Are there any other questions for Mr. Blakesley while he's at the pulpit?
Who's going to chair that committee? We got Mr. Blakesley, or do you want to have somebody else?
Who,
Is that a typical planning commission type process to where maybe they should, or, well, either here or there, we are there.
You need someone who can
It
set the
is, though.
agenda.
It
to
is,
kind
it
of
is one of
organize.
their roles.
it is.
I mean, it is their role to do that, and I know it's already gonna be a tough one, so.
Yeah.
I don't
Jamie,
have
can
a
you
strong
speak into the
preference.
mic? Sorry, I just gotta,
Sure.
they can't hear you.
I don't have a strong preference one way or the other of who leads it. I know from my conversation with David that he and I will both bring a strong arm to keeping the momentum and keeping the organization and making sure that everything moves forward as we're working through it, regardless of the composition. I think what we need from you all, frankly, is the substance and the policy and the direction on how to do things, and then we'll try to help you lead.
All right,
So is deciding a chair just something we could do at the committee level?
yeah, I think so. We could determine the chair.
How about this for a process? Once there's communication with the planning commission and they determine who their representatives will be, I can take the lead on organizing the first meeting and getting everybody together. And from that point, I'll work with whoever is designated as the chair to make sure that meetings are scheduled and things like that.
Right, okay. That sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
For my part,
Thank you.
a hearty thank you for bringing me on. I'm excited to get going with this project. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Welcome to
very
the
much.
city.
Yeah,
Jamie.
welcome.
All right.
Where are you from?
I grew up in the Holiday Mill Creek area. I spent most of my professional career back east in Washington, D.C. I was a Fed for about a decade. And then when Utah Transit Authority got in some hot water with the federal grand jury investigation, I was hired to help kind of pull them out of that mire. And then from there went into private practice. So my office is about 4 or 5 minutes from where I grew up and where I live right now.
Yeah.
So I know what it is to feel pride in the community and to really love the place you are. And that's the sense I get here, is that people in South Weaver love it, and there's good reason for it.
Thank you. Good to meet
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Next item is new business. Do we have any new business?
I have one item that I just wanted to bring up from the email, the public comment emails we got today about removing South Bench Drive from the WFRC. Did I say that right? And UDOT. Can we discuss that? About going forward with that?
Yes, if the general plan is adopted without that road on it, then the next step would be to remove it from the Wasatch Front Regional Council's, what do you call it? Transportation Improvement Plan, right?
Okay.
So,
Is that something that the council does, or how do we go about doing that?
Dave, do you?
I think that would just, that would just be on a staff level. We'd be able to contact WFRC and UDOT and any of those other planning entities and tell them what our updates are and that that's no longer part of the plan. And
I think we should go one step further, and we should probably put a letter together with the council signature that you take to those organizations, not mandating, but basically requiring that they be removed and not be brought back. So it's more than just staff. It's a directive from the council, if that's what the general plan goes, and I believe it will.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
This is a plan that's adjusted, updated every year, so it's not a big deal to alter it. So,
Great.
all right, other new business.
I have one item that might be new to business reports. When we last met on the gravel pits with Stick Parson, I brought up a few things that are in the development agreement that was made originally back in 2003, 2004, that aren't currently being met. One of them, Steak Parsons has suggested or encouraged us to do is in item 4.5.2.2. In that one, the agreement was made that they would pay the city or donate to the city a certain amount per ton, which they are doing. That part is there, but the last part of it, and that those monies are supposed to go to recreational programs to benefit the city. The latter part of that paragraph states these monies should be placed into a restricted account with the city. Said money shall be dispersed for recreational programs and facilities or other corporate purposes deemed appropriate by the city council after receiving a recommendation from a five-member advisory board, which shall be appointed by the city council. One of the 5 members should be a representative of Staker and Parson Company. And so we don't have an advisory board to identify how those monies are spent. Right now, those monies just kind of get delivered to the city into the recreation budget and have been utilized for recreation. We just haven't had a board. And so that'll be a discussion item coming up where we'll talk about, how we want to address that part of the development agreement. If we are going to do an advisory board, who would be on it?
Would that be considered the Parks and Rec Committee?
Well, yeah, we need to identify who it would be, but we could decide that that's the committee.
And then they would just need to be invited to attend.
Yeah, there should be one person from State of Parson on it, according to the development agreement, and then 4 other members that the city council appoints.
I think it would have to be a portion of the Parks and Rec Committee because there's more members than 5 on that committee. So if I understand correctly, Quinn is suggesting that we need to define what that committee would look like, and maybe the representation from the city comes from that Parks and Rec Committee. And if the council wants to hand that item over to the Parks and Rec Committee and say, you form that advisory board, you have that ability. Or if you want to tackle that as an agenda item on on a future, meeting, then we can do that as well, where you have that dialogue as a full council.
Yeah, if you want to make the recommendation to send it to the Parks and Rec Committee to do that, we can take that.
Absolutely, we could do that. I'm
I
fine
mean,
with that.
Is the council okay with that?
I agree. Does that need to be a motion?
No, I
I'm
don't
good
think
with
so.
I don't think so.
Just on business?
Yeah, it's already there. So.
That's roughly like $60,000 a year. Am I understanding that right, Dave?
No, it's more than that.
Oh, is it more than
There's
that?
a few different things that the gravel pit provides to us. There's a point of sale portion, which is anywhere between 50 and 70,000. There is also there's an amount that is, I lost the term in my head.
The sales tax isn't part of that.
No, it's separate from the sales.
This is a
tax.
Yes,
separate
this
one,
is, this is a separate. and
So I'm just looking at the budget under recreation revenue. We have gravel pit fees. Is
Yeah,
that what this would be?
That is the fee.
So that would be
that's referring
50,
to.
55 is what we budgeted.
So there is an amount based on each ton, and it's, I think, 7 cents per ton that they remove, that they actively excavate. That turns into this money.
Okay.
So that's separate than their donations and their point of sale, sales tax and things like that. It's specific to the development agreement. And they told us that we're the only one that actually, the only gravel pit that they operate, the only city that has an agreement like that where it's based on the ton that is excavated. Others are a set fee or things like that. It's a flat fee. So that's where that money comes from directly. And we have been using it appropriately for recreation as identified. We just haven't had that intermediate step of their representative on this advisory board that provides recommendations. So they requested us to add that step in.
They do want someone involved in that.
They do.
Okay.
I mean, they're a part of, they feel a part of the city, and they like seeing the progress that we're making. And since they're making a donation above and beyond, the sales tax, they'd like to just have a voice in where it gets spent.
Quinn, could you clarify, does that say only a 5-member committee, or could it be more than 5?
It says, after receiving the recommendation of a 5-member advisory board.
Okay, I was just trying to think logistically if we could just have them come to one of our.
But they're open to modifying the, development agreement here and some other places if needed.
Okay.
So that discussion will be had.
Okay.
Because there's a few other things that when they first put the development agreement together, like the berm and other things, that they had plans, but then when they found the location of gas lines and things like that, they had to modify things. So there are other areas in the development agreement that we do need to address at some point.
Okay, fantastic, thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, anyone else? New business? Okay, hearing none, we will move to reports. I don't have much this last week, but I attended a change of command ceremony last week. The base commander, Colonel John A. Everlin, took a new position in New York City and relinquished his command of the base to Colonel Janice M. Carroll. And yes, she is a female. So,
I was going to ask that. You read my mind.
And so she seemed, I listened to her speak, and she seems like a bright and enthusiastic lady, and we're excited to have her there. So I think she'll be good. All right, let's see. I think we started at this end last week. So Councilman Halverson.
I have nothing to report since last week.
All right, Councilwoman Alberts.
I have something. Okay, I got more information on our parade, or parades.
I was
Okay.
hoping that wasn't coming up tonight.
So there are going to be 2 routes, and we need to find our own vehicle to drive around in. They will be supplying, there's going to be farmers pulling tractors, and the tractors are pulling a flatbed trailers for us to put the canned food on, but we might need to have a driver of a vehicle. We'll mostly be picking up food, so I don't know that we'll really ride in the vehicle very much, but may just need to have it just in case. They are doing money for prizes for donation, kind of like a raffle. So for every food donation we pick up, we're going to put a piece of paper in the bag of their name, and then they're going to draw after the parade. And they have some pretty awesome prizes. They have a paddleboard, a TV, some scooters, and then like $100 Visa card. that can be picked after following the parade. They're not necessarily pertaining to the council, but there is going to be a fun competition between the east side versus the west side. And they've asked for two people who are
You say fun, but that could turn bad.
they've asked for two people who are well known on social media to choose each side, and I was chosen for the east side. So I'm going to be pumping it out to bring up as much numbers as I can on the east side. There'll be another one for the west side.
What's the delineation between east and west?
Like 100 yards for me. It's City Hall.
City Hall?
So
Okay.
from City Hall east, gosh, these things, and City Hall east and west. You're okay, sorry. I'm just
You guys
clumsy.
are all east siders.
Total east side.
Yeah, a bunch of east
The
siders.
council is very heavy easters. Except for me, I'm a central. So both of
Stay
their
off
out.
the east side then.
I'm central. I got one leg. I'm on the fence. I'm a fence sitter on the east side. Both ends are going to start at 9:30. So they want us. Our lineup starts at 9:30. Our west end starts near Heather Cove, and our east end will start at the church on the frontage road. And they're both wind their way through the neighborhoods, and we'll meet here. And then they're going to hang out here for about an hour just in case anybody wanted to donate and weren't able to, they can bring it. And that's also when there's a raffle. They did approve us for a water fight. So we can use the flatbed trailers to bring water balloons and gear and water guns and whatever else. And the residents will be encouraged to get right back at us. So it should be pretty darn fun, I think.
Yeah, make sure that the food is in
Yeah.
their hands.
Yeah. Well, it should be non-perishable, so hopefully that will be okay. But yeah, that's a good point. We might want to cover them up somehow.
Boxes might be, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
Maybe get
Did
some
we
big
decide how the
trunks or
council's
something.
getting divided up?
No, I'm going to get to that. Oh, actually, it's time for that right now. I got through everything else. So the council needs to be divided up 3 and 3, but Quinn, you'll be absent that day, right?
Yeah, I'm unfortunately hiking with my sons.
Okay.
Can I
So
go hiking with you, Quinn?
So can I.
Can I go hiking with you,
Oh,
Chloe?
stop
You can
it.
come.
This is going to be so
If you'll carry
fun.
my pack.
Done.
Do you guys remember the ideas that I presented to you at the beginning of the year before COVID on what we could do for the parade? This is a very slimmed down version of what I had my ideas were. So, so 3 and 2 or 3 and 3 should Dave want to participate, or staff in general. I don't want to take you away from your families if you have other plans, but if you would like to participate, they are absolutely happy to have you participate. As are we. Is this the 8th? Yes.
Okay, I legitimately may be gone also.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, me too. No.
Fine, I will pick up all the food all by myself.
Maybe I'll be here.
All right, I'll pick up the
I'll be
whole
here.
city's water fight too. Here we go. So just let me know either way what we want to do and who will actually be in attendance. This
I'll be there. Just tell me which one you want me to be in.
I don't care. Do we have a preference on how we want to do this?
I'm a west sider.
I'm a fence
Why don't
sitter,
you
so
just
I can go
decide?
either
Someone
way.
has to
Haley, why don't you just decide?
Someone has to slum over to my side of town.
Okay.
I'd just like to point out, you are really good at making some decisions, but this isn't one of them.
All right, Blair, me, and X person, depending on who will be here and who will not, will be west. And that leaves you 3, unless Wayne, you want to, staff, do you have a preference? Do you want to come so I can eliminate you or include you right now?
We would love to let the council take all the spotlight on this.
Wow, nice, okay. All right, so that,
I'll be there at Haley, so.
okay.
So let the mayor take the east side and then I'll be on the west side with you two?
The mayor and Angie on the east side?
Oh, Andrew, you're gonna have to stay in town.
Are you gonna be here?
I really may be camping.
You cannot. Okay.
Otherwise,
Let's
yeah.
tentatively say that until we know what Angie's doing. Is that okay with you guys? Does that work?
Yep, that works.
Okay.
Good.
And is that everything? Anyway, I was just really happy that they were able to do this and they did the work for it. I think it's going to be really fun. I can't remember how many emergency vehicles are coming, but they anticipate the parade being about 30 minutes.
So you want us there a half hour before the start time?
Their lineup is at 9:30, so probably just a little bit before, probably
Okay.
about 9:20, 9:15 would be safe.
So are they
So-
lining up at each end and meeting in the middle? Is that what?
Yeah. And I don't know who's going to drive the West End truck, but it just needs to have really good speakers because we're going to need some fun music.
You're gonna be what?
We need some good music
Oh,
to go with the water
There's a
side.
new, there's a new great, or black truck.
There is a,
Shoot.
a brand new
I-
truck
no.
out there.
no.
It'll get washed in the water fight. So anyway,
I think
I
we
think
should have
that
a
this would be-
contest, which council person gets the wettest.
there you go.
I'll put my odds on the mayor.
I'm gonna take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
I think that the real contest will be deciding, the residents deciding who was the most ambitious council member to get others wet, I think, maybe. Anyway, I was really happy with this and I think it will be great. They can, come back next year, build back better next year, so.
Hey Blair, can we put a 300-gallon water buffalo behind your truck and then we can put a pump on it? That'll be our hose.
Seriously, it's gonna be awesome.
We'll use the intimidation factor. We'll get a 4-inch hose and
Get a fire truck. Yeah,
we'll put the
Or
fire
for
truck.
something.
Yeah.
so
Is that it?
that's it.
We're setting ourselves up for a soaking, you know that.
It's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah. Wear your swim
Okay.
trunks.
That's it.
Thank you, Haley. All right, Councilman Soderquist.
I do have a boring report from the Admin Finance Committee.
Hey.
Well, after that, okay, we can try to
See,
spice
Quinn
it
thinks
up.
that sounds fun.
In our fraud audit, one of the things that came up was that suggestion and recommendation that we have an annual ethics pledge, a conflict of interest disclosure form be filled out, and those are things that we haven't been doing. So the committee, with the staff putting it together, the committee's kind of approved and prepared an ethics pledge and a conflict of interest disclosure form that will be administered or handed out at some point to the city staff, the city officials, in order to comply with that requirement of the fraud audit that we had. And so that'll be coming out in some future week. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Petty.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick items to report. The Parks and Recreation Committee is going to meet to discuss modifying the contract for the gravel pit. So we will do that in the coming weeks, the next couple weeks, if that works for scheduling. Also, I do have an update on the dog park, as promised. And I thank Brandon Jones for helping me reach out to the developers and the contractor. So we are sitting at it is graded, topsoil is in and graded. And that's where we're at. So when we have sprinklers in and seed in and fencing in and the trail in, I'll let you know.
So do they have like an ETA on all that stuff?
We do not have one yet.
Well, we
We're
used to
waiting
have
hear back.
one. We used to have one, now it's gone.
Anything else?
Yes, the date that we were told was the end of July,
Yeah.
originally. And so I had tried to reach out to see if they could give us a new date. My contact is on vacation, so he said he would get back to me when he got back.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay. And then we are excited to announce that the youth city council committee is going to meet in the upcoming week to establish some rules, regulations, and start the application process. And that will consist of myself, Haley, the mayor. Dave should probably come. And anyone, I don't know if there's anyone else on there. But we're excited to get that started. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilman Windsor.
I'm happy to report. I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Dave?
Nothing for me tonight.
Dave, can
Alright.
I just ask you a question? Is that okay? Did we get an update on our live streaming? Are they still 4 to 6 weeks out on that? Have we heard anything yet?
Nothing new yet.
Okay.
I can follow up on that.
Okay.
I just haven't asked Max since I've been back in town.
Okay. Thanks.
Brandon, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, I do have another question, on the Garrity property. We probably need to get back to him sooner than later. I know they're anxious to do some improvements to their property, so, if we could, I know there's a lot going on, but if we could look at that again, that'd be great. All right, let's see, Lisa, did you have anything? Michelle? Okay, then I will entertain a motion to go into closed session as per section 52-4-2051D of the Utah Code to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say, oh, okay,
Angie,
Oh.
Angie got it.
okay, Angie's got it. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move to closed session. And can we have that in here? Is that all right?